Hey folks, Little John in the brewery, and today we're knocking up a Marzen, an Oktoberfest beer, a German style lager. Never done a Marzen before, so this is something new. And what really drove me to doing this was when I was getting the yeast ordered for this year's Loaded Dog lager. After ordering it, the supplier had sold this last vial, the last pack of the Danish lager I use, so it didn't have what I needed. So I picked another yeast from what he had, and what we ended up with was White Labs WLP 820 Oktoberfest Marzen lager yeast. So, well, looks like I'm doing a Marzen. So, originally I planned on doing a split batch, but that's not happening. So I'm just doing a small single batch, 13 litres is the target, into the fermenter. I'm just getting the kegs back online and picking up a keg fridge tomorrow. So this will be the first one to go into a new keg. So 13 litre batch will get me small 9 litre keg, and maybe 3 or 4 bottles on the side. So I said 13 litre is the batch size. I'm shooting for a target gravity of 1053. Which will give me, I'm looking for, I think it was 5.2% alcohol. So just on that higher end. Grain bills Munich and Caramunich, and I'm going to go for that just in a minute. What's going on with that? And hopping is all Hallertau Mittelfra, 60 minute for bittering addition and 10 minutes addition. Actually, I printed this off. I thought about it. I was actually going to drop that initial 60 minute addition back to about 40 minutes to try and drag a little bit extra flavour up out of that hop. But I think I might just leave it and see how it goes. There's nothing at 10 minutes. So target IBU is 25 IBU. So it's fairly much just over midway on targets for a Marzen. Just a touch creeping into the hoppy side. But other than that, it's pretty much straight down the line. So nothing really out of the realms, except for what I've done with the grain, which I'm going to just discuss in just a minute. So I've done up a starter on the yeast, which has been going for 2 days, and I've just switched it off this morning, and it's just starting to settle out. It looks like a nice amount of yeast there. Certainly going to be enough for the 13 litres I'm doing. The yeast was reasonably fresh. Was made in March, so it's still got a bit of viability in it. But just did a starter to be sure, and that's it. So let's look at the grains shortly. Other than that, I'm going to get on with everything else I need to do. Okay, so this is the bit of a breakdown on the grain, just to show the difference with what I've done with the grain on this batch. A little while ago, I took 2 kilos of Munich malt and added to that some coffee and smoked it on the barbecue. So I took 300 mils of a very strong plunger coffee and sprayed that onto the plain Munich malt to wet the grain, and then put that into the barbecue, sealed up in the barbecue, and cooked it for half an hour to just impart some of that coffee note into the grain, and possibly a little bit of smoke. There wasn't a lot of smoke, and I did that 4 times. So every half an hour I'd take that, I'd spray some more coffee on, mix it through, and put it back into the barbecue. So over 2 hours that coffee got put into the grain. So this is the plain Munich, and this is the coffee grain. I don't know how much it's actually going to show up. It's not real clear, but there is a reasonable difference in the colour, and I'm hoping that's going to add some impact into the brew. And this is just the Caramunich 2, which I'm using just a little bit of, just a little bit extra depth of colour, depth of flavour. So when I did this coffee smoking and soaking, I started with 2 kilos of Munich, and I've ended up with 2 1/4 kilos. So it's taken up pretty much all of that liquid I've put in has been taken up into the weight of the grain. So I've allowed for 3 kilos of Munich all up in the recipe. So there's 2 1/4 of the coffee and 3/4 of the kilo of just a plain Munich, and there's about 190 grams of Caramunich 2 going in. Now I've calculated the recipe on 3 kilos of Munich, and I think because of the weight and the coffee in this, I think that's going to probably knock my efficiency around just a little bit, because that extra 1/4 kilo is not going to give us any sugars in the final mix. So I can adjust that at the end if I need to. We'll see what the figures come out. So, but that's it. So all up, about 3.2 kilos of grain to do this small 13 litre batch. Okay, so I've got 21 litres in the Robobrew. We're looking for full volumes about 22 1/4 litres. So I'm just doing a full volume, and I'll just fudge through for about 1 litre when we're done, just to finish off. With this small volume, it's hard to do a proper mash and sparge, so I've had good results with just doing all but a full volume mash and just doing a small sparge. Still getting around 70% efficiency, so I'm pretty happy to stick with that. So my grain's in, and even though it's only a small grain bill, just to play it safe, 2 small handfuls of rice hulls. Give that a bit of a mix. Now, the actual mash volume is pretty close to what I do on a standard brew anyway. I normally do 22 litre mashing, so it's fairly similar. So it's a very very thin mash, so it's not going to get stuck in a real hurry, but the rice hulls are just to make sure, because right about now I'm going to put this on. I'm going to set this to do a 1 1/4 hour mash at 64 degrees, and then I'm going to set it to ramp from there to 72 degrees and hold there for another 45 minutes. So hold there once it gets there, so it'll hold for about half an hour at 72. Then I'll sparge reasonably. I'm going down the road. I've got things I've got to do. Got family coming for the weekend. So I'll go out and get a few things done. So I won't have time tomorrow morning. So I'm going out tomorrow morning to pick up the new keg fridge. So got things to do, so I'm going to let this run automatically. So I'm going to give that 10 minutes now just to settle. Whilst doing that, I'll get the steps programmed in and then get it running with the pump and let it do its thing. We'll come back and have a look a bit later when it's coming through, probably at sparge time, see what we're looking at. Right, we've gone through the mash, hour and a quarter at 64 degrees and brought up to 72. I was trying to get up there just with the 500 watt element, but it just really wasn't getting anywhere, so I flicked over the 1900. When it got to about 70, I switched the 1900 off and put it back on the 500 just to hold it there for about 10 minutes, and then put it back to 1900, back to the 72, and it sat there for another half an hour from there. So mash is all done, so it's going to lift this now. It's looking lovely and clear. And we'll get that up the drain. And I've got it's draining pretty quickly. And I've got about 1.25 litres here of just boiled water. I'm just going to drop that through just slowly. And that's the extent of our sparge on this batch. Pretty straightforward. Now I took a refractometer reading at the end of the first mash before I raised the temp. Had us sitting at 1040. We're aiming for 1048 pre-boil. I'll take another sample of this in a minute and see where we're at. As I said, with the grain, I'm expecting to be a little bit under that. But I'll take a sample in a minute, get it cooled, and I'll actually check with the hydrometer. And when I do that, we'll talk about the hops. Okay, we're continuing on. And it's proven a bit of a day of blunders. A day of things going slightly wrong anyway. Started off with the boil, we were 2 litres over pre-boil volume. I was expecting, well, target pre-boil was 18.3 litres. I had about 20.5. I mean, that's my own fault. I've not adjusted for the lower volume with the calculations. That's alright. That's fine. So I've just boiled for an extra hour, and that got us back pretty close. So I was expecting 1048 gravity. I did have 1040. So after an hour of boiling, I've got that back to 1046. So pretty close. And as I said earlier, with the coffee and the weight in that grain, that extra 1/4 kilo, which is weight without actual being any sugar, I expected to be probably 2 points out anyway. So that's not a concern. That's really where I expected to be. Having the extra hour boil was a worry. So I've just weighed out the hops. As I said, go and Hallertau. You know, traditional, very traditional for this sort of beer. I've calculated the recipe, and I haven't checked my actual alpha acids on the hops that I had. I've just gone straight off the software, which had them sitting at 6.3%. And I did think that sounded a bit high when I was doing it. Most of the German navel hops are lower than that. But I thought I haven't used Hallertau for a while, maybe it is 6. Didn't think anything of it. I've just pulled them out and weighed them up. I've just done the first edition, and yeah, they're 3.5%. Hey, here they are. Stop it. Excuse the brew dogs. A bit narky with one another. Yeah, so opposed to running inside and jumping on the computer and recalculating the numbers, I've just adjusted them on the fly, and we'll see how it turns out. So what was originally going to be 15 grams at 60 minutes is I've bumped up to 18. Now I don't think that's going to get me near where I was looking for. And off the top of my head, I was looking for around 19 IBU on that edition, so maybe a bit less. So what I've done, I've just jacked up the late edition, which is 10 minutes from the end of the boil. It was 14 grams. I've jumped it up to 20. So I think once I rerun the numbers, that'll drag us back up in the realm. As I said too, the IBU I was shooting for originally was a little bit over the mid-range. I was pushing onto the hoppy side a little bit. So it's not going to hurt if this drops it down even by 2 or 3 IBU. Not going to hurt at all. It's probably, realistically, probably more a malt focused lager than hops, so it's not going to do too much. We'll only sort of probably just sneak back onto that malty side. So that's all good. I'm not too worried about that. So the boil's on. It's been going now for nearly 20 minutes. So I'm just getting these hops packaged back up. Just excuse the noise there of the vacuum sealer in order to get that done while I'm thinking about it. So hops are sealed back up. I'll go back into the freezer and just remark on them. It's no longer 100 grams. It's now going to be taking 40, so it's closer to 60 grams. I do like to just have a bit of a rough estimate on my hops as to how much is in each pack. It can just make it a little bit easier on Brewday when you're pulling them out. Sometimes I might have, depending on what's going on, I might have 2 or 3 packs that I'll split up from bigger packs when you buy them in bulk. So sometimes you might be able to pull a pack out that's close to what you want without, or even spot on, or you can just play around with it just a little bit and to use a full bag instead of having to open up one bag, use half and reseal it. But that was a 100 gram bag I bought. I haven't had Hallertau in the freezer. Geez, crikey, it's probably been 3 years since I've had Hallertau in the fridge. So I generally stick with SARS for my Euro lagers and stuff. So there it is. So next edition is 10 minutes, which is now still 30 minutes away. I will drop a whirl flock in around the same time, and also drop in the chiller. Now, because this is a small brew, last brew day, the breakfast ale, I run the chiller and only about the bottom 40% of the chiller was actually in the wort. So it works. It's just a little bit, you've got to just stir the water a bit to keep it moving around. But it did work fine. And I said, on that small batch note though, it's certainly doable. I said this is a 13 litre batch. The breakfast ale, which I did last batch, I think ended up with, I haven't written it down, but I'm pretty sure it was 12 litres, 12.5 litres into the fermenter. I don't know if you can see it sitting over here on the bench behind us. So you can do them quite successfully if you want to do the half size batches. And as I said, this size works really well if you're using the the little squat kegs, the little smaller fellas. If you're using those, they're perfect. Yeah, bit over, yeah, carton and a quarter of beer in one of them. Oh. Yeah, thereabouts. Yeah, be good for saving room in your beer fridge. But anyway, so it's coming along. It's smelling really good. had my first beer. It's at a bench spoke sprocket. First time I've tried the sprocket. It was quite a nice drop. So if you ever get a chance to get hold of some of the bench spoke beers, do so. They knock out some good stuff. I don't recommend breweries often. Brent spoke, yeah, do consistently good beer. So I'm gonna grab myself another beer, wait for this one to finish, and I'll come back at the end. We'll wrap it up, and we'll come back and wrap up final numbers before we pitch the yeast. Okay, so chilling is finished. Got down to 15 degrees with the chilling, no worries. So all good there. Let's see where we're at. 10. Looks like about 10:56 actually. So a little bit higher than we're after, but the volume has come down a little more than I want. Probably boiled a little bit more than I needed, so that's alright. Looking at this, bit over 13 litres actually left in the Robobrew, so I'll get 12 litres out of that. Throw a litre, just a litre of water at that maybe, and see where we go. Get us back down around that 10:53, 10:52 mark. We'll see what it tastes like first before we make that big decision. So I'm pretty happy with the colour. Nice bit of depth there, that's good. It's good and malty. Can smell the hop, but can't really taste it, so it's good. So there's some there, but not it's not overpowering, so that's going to work out nicely. Oh, that's good. I'm happy with that. So yeah, a little bit of mucking around, a little bit of hit and miss and stuff up. So I think we've, in the end of the day, we've got where we wanted to get. So happy with that. So I'm going out for dinner shortly, so I'm going to go and get ready for that while I'm doing. So while I'm out for dinner, I'm just going to let that sit in the Robobrew now and just let it completely settle to the bottom before I rack it off to the fermenter. Just and then I'll make sure I get good 12 litres out of it without too much trouble, and then I'll have a look at it then if whether I need to add a little bit more water to it. But as I said, 10:56, a little bit higher than I wanted. I don't really want to be pushing into the higher end of the fire, so I definitely want to keep it in the lower end. So I think I will at least add a little bit to it, adjust it a little bit, to get it back to around that 10:53 mark. So I'm going to pitch this White Labs lager yeast. It's settling up quite nicely now. Getting a good amount on the bottom. So another couple of hours to settle that for later. It'll be fine. I can't get this into the fridge, so I'm not going to be able to temp control it exactly. The garage's been sitting on about 16 degrees fairly steadily. a bit colder in the winter, so I'm happy to run with. I think I'll just run with that. I think that'll be fine. It's probably a little bit warmer than I'd like, but it's still cool enough. I don't think it's going to make too much trouble. I will have a bit of a look later on at a little bit of read on the yeast and see if I can find any evidence that it's why it shouldn't be done warmer, and see how we go. I think it should be fine. If it does turn out it's going to be a drama, then I'll look at that tomorrow and see what I can do. What I've got in the fridge at the moment certainly needs to be there for at least another 24 hours, maybe 48, so I may be able to get this brew into the fridge tomorrow if need be, but I think it'll be fine temperature wise. So that's it, that's me for today anyway. Said I'll pitch this all up later. I'll stick the recipe down the bottom, all the important numbers, and we'll brew them out, and 5-6 weeks from now we'll be doing tasting on this one, see how it turned out. I'm looking forward to this one anyway. Something different for me, something new. Seems alright from the tasters, so that's it. So as always, if you've got any questions, stick them down the bottom, go ahead. If you haven't subscribed to Little John, do so. Hit the button down there in the corner, get subscribed so you come along, get notified when everything's happening. So I'm gone, I'm out, Little John. So until I see you again, we talking beer, we drinking beer, we brewing beer. Good brewing.